To this case and bringing Brian Conway, lecturer in the Sociology of Religion at Maynooth University. Mr. Conway, thank you very much for being with us. What is your reaction to this story, the conviction, first off, of Cardinal Philippe Barbarin, and then his reaction to that conviction?
Well, I think what we're seeing is the playing out, so this French story is the playing out of the leadership crisis in the Catholic Church. So the child abuse crisis, it began as an abuse one, and now it's developed into a leadership crisis. So what we're seeing in the case here is the kind of latest instalment of that leadership crisis about, and what I mean by that is how religious leaders, church leaders, have mishandled the abuse carried out by their personnel in the Catholic Church. So that's significant. I think what's really important about this French case is, in terms of the global picture, is just the power of lay activism in bringing this case to light. So we've seen in other national churches in America the significance of lay people coming together, organising. But the French story really brings out the power of the true power, if you like, of victim testimonies. So it really highlights the lay activism in the church, and in exposing this case. In other contexts, there's been much heavier emphasis on media exposes and bringing to light abuse in the Catholic Church. But this case in France demonstrates the significant power of lay activism and of victims' activism. So there's been some social movements in France around exposing abuse cases in the Catholic Church. And so this is a kind of a culmination of that long kind of period of lay activism.
And Brian, the task that faces Pope Francis now, in terms of trying to I don't know whether you can ever put this kind of thing right, but certainly in terms of trying to regain some confidence in the Catholic clergy. How great a problem does Pope Francis have in front of him now?
Yeah, well, it is a significant, like we just have come from 10 days ago from the protection of minors in the church meeting in the Vatican to highlight this issue. But it's clear that, this is, the leadership crisis is going to continue in the Catholic Church, and it's continue to kind of taint the kind of Catholic brand globally. So it's a most significant challenge for the Pope. I mean, it's not an easy challenge to respond to, because there's just so much variation in the Catholic Church. It's not easy to implement global norms around this issue, given just the diversity that exists in the Catholic Church. So that is a real challenge for the Pope. Some of the victim groups were not that satisfied with the summit that was held in the Vatican. They didn't see much concrete measures coming from it, and I don't think he can say that there's a kind of a silver bullet answer to the child abuse crisis. So what he will try to do, I think, is to make sure that there's more evenness in terms of how national churches respond to the issue by implementing local norms in national contexts for dealing with child abuse. Reforming seminary formation is going to be part of how the Pope responds to the issue, or how the church in general responds to the issue, and doing things like bringing in new institutions in the church, like local child protection offices. These are the kinds of things that have been done in kind of lead national churches, like in Ireland, who have a much longer history of responding to this issue.
And of course, the thing is, they should call in the police earlier, Brian, I expect. Yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it? Get the police involved.
Yeah. I mean, that has become a kind of a norm in the church now, and it's surprising in a way that in the French case that the cardinal in this case didn't report his awareness of these issues to the civil authorities, because that is more or less a norm now in the church in the last few years, to report these matters to civil authorities. But as the French case shows, that there's an evenness in the actual implementation of this norm across different national churches. So that will be a big challenge for the Pope, to ensure that there's actual implementation of this reporting imperative in different national churches that
Brian,
are so diverse in different parts.
Thank you, sir, very much indeed. Brian Conway from Maynooth University, a lecturer in the sociology of religion. Thanks for your insights, sir. We really appreciate your time. Brian Maynooth on the